Hate jazz? Cool, but I'm about to change that. Here's 10 modern gateway records that don't feel like homework. No dusty museum pieces, no 10-minute long sax solos that sound like a crying baby, just music you can feel deep in your chest. Ready to fall in love with jazz? Let's flip the script. Hey guys, welcome back to the apartment Audiophile. And if we haven't met, I'm Charles Pepin and I grew up surrounded by hi-fi gear, played music since I could hold a guitar, and built a career in video production for the past 15 years now. Here you'll get no-nonsense audio reviews, album recommendations, and tricks to squeeze the most out of your gear. If it's not already done, please make sure you hit subscribe and hit that bell notification to never miss a video. It is the best way to support this channel and all the hard work we put in it. So thank you for subscribing. Now, before jumping into album recommendations, here a quick history lesson about jazz if you're new to the genre. Jazz was born in the heart of African American communities in New Orleans, Louisiana in the early 1900s, where blues, ragtime, church music, and marching bands shared the same streets. It mainly spread north to Chicago and New York, picked up bigger bands for dancing, then shrunk down again into tight and smoky clubs where musicians push the music forward in real time. That's the core of jazz. Conversation. Instruments talk to each other. The drummer throws you a question, the bass answers. The soloist tells a story. When it's good, it's a dialogue you can feel. If jazz sometimes sounds dense, it's usually because you're dropped into the middle of a very technical conversation. There's many subgenres of jazz and every one of them has some kind of a different approach. For example, bebop in the 1940s was lightning fast, acrobatic, and brilliant. But it can be like jumping straight into a graduate seminar. Then came hard bop and soul jazz in the mid-50s with more gospel and blues in the DNA. Modal jazz stretched time and mood, using mode or musical scale as the basis of musical structure and improvisation. And on the other side, free jazz explored playing without regular meter, beat, and formal structures. Jazz fusion appeared in the late 60s and early 70s, combining jazz improvisation with rock music rhythms, electric instruments, and highly amplified stage sound. In the early 80s, a commercial form of jazz fusion called smooth jazz became successful, garnering significant radio airplay. And today's scene, the world you're about to hear, falls in hip-hop, Afrobeat, Caribbean rhythms, broken beat, and electronic textures. It's less about showing off chops and more about building a pocket, a mood, a landscape you want to sit in. All right, history lesson over. Now, let's define our musical terms. When I refer to building a pocket, it means the drummer locks in with the bass so the whole band moves as one. A good pocket isn't stiff, it breathes. It's not just about precise timing, but also involves the skillful manipulation of micro-timing, which means playing slightly ahead of the beat to push the groove forward, or a little bit behind to relax the groove, or on the beat to keep it steady. It's all on purpose to match the song's vibe. Dynamic seals the deal, accents pop, tiny ghost notes whisper, and the rhythm comes alive. That's why your head starts nodding before you even notice. To get the pocket, as a listener, lock your ears on the kick drum and the bass line. If they feel glued together, that's the pocket. Notice where the beat sits, forward, back, or right in the middle, and pay attention to those softer notes in between the hits. They're the secret sauce. The pocket is a conversation, and the groove lands best when everyone's speaking the same language. Now, the ghost notes. Think of them as whispers between the words. They're tiny, super soft hits that don't carry melody, they carry feel. On drums, ghost notes live on the snare, tucked between the big accents. You barely hear them, but you feel the pulse get deeper. On guitar and bass, ghost notes are those muted plucks where your fretting hand lightly touches the strings instead of pressing down. No clear pitch, just a top or a tsk that acts like a mini drum hit inside your line. Suddenly, your riff has pocket. Why use them? Well, for adding contrast, loud versus soft, notes versus noise. The soft ghosts make the main notes pop. They add texture, glue the groove, and make everything sound more three-dimensional, like adding brushstrokes to a sketch. How to hear them? Lock your ears in the space between the big hits. That faint tick under the snare, that little tsk between the chords. Those are the ghosts doing quiet work. Ghost notes aren't there to be noticed, they're there to make the groove feel alive. So here's how to listen tonight. First, lock into the rhythm section. Kick, snare, hi-hat, and bass. If the pocket grabs you, you're halfway there. Second, track the melody the way you follow a vocal hook. Even instrumental jazz sings when the lines are strong. Third, notice texture, the warmth of a Rhodes keyboard, the breath in a saxophone, the bloom of a cymbal. If you can do those three things, groove, melody, texture, you'll get what makes this music so addictive. Quick mention here that is super important before you start your listening session. You might not like some of the albums and tracks I'm gonna share here. Remember, jazz is like wine. It's an acquired taste, so don't discourage yourself. If you don't like one of them, just go to the next suggestion. Maybe your taste buds are more into Beaujolais than a full-bodied Cabernet Sauvignon. I even put chapters in the description box below, so feel free to jump to the next one. All right, enough about theory. Close your book. End of class. So here's my top 10 gateways. So let's start in London with Nubya Garcia and her album Odyssey. Nubya is a tenor saxophonist who came up through the UK jazz wave that's been blending Afro-Caribbean roots, dub, and club culture into something lush and cinematic. If the word jazz makes you brace for chaos, this records disarm you with patience and long-form melody. What hits first is the sense of space. The drums don't crowd you, they carry you. Strings open up the horizon and Nubya's sax sings in full sentences, not on paragraphs, meaning that you won't feel overwhelmed by it. It feels like a film score. You get modern production without losing the human breath in the horn. Two songs to start with. Cue up Solstice for the main thesis and Triumphance because it is the best song on the album in my opinion, which is also how the album closes. Why it's a gateway? Well, you can live inside these grooves even if you never listen to a jazz album all the way through. It's approachable, spacious, and just emotional enough to pull you forward. Staying in London, drummer Yussef days exploded with the unmistakable snare crack and rolling toms you can spot from a block away. Black classical music is a victory lap for rhythm and one of my all-time favorite albums. There's jazz language here, but the heartbeat is a blend of hip-hop, Afro-Caribbean pulse, neo-soul atmosphere, and even orchestral textures. This album is deeply alive. Days plays like a producer who happens to be behind a drum kit. Keys glows, bass line slide, and guest drops in without stealing the vibe. It's glossy in the best way, like your favorite late-night playlist grew a spine. Start with the title track, Black Classical Music, instant mission statement. Then Jukebox that has a solid bass groove, probably my favorite on the album. Why it works for newcomers? Well, rhythm leads, theory follows. Your head will nod before your brain catches up. Now a left turn that still lands square in gateway territory, but this one is quite different from the rest here. Bass legend Pino Palladino and guitar producer Blake Mills craft a world of micro grooves and woodwind whispers on That Wasn't a Dream, their second album together. If you come from indie ambient music, this is your on-ramp. This record is quiet but magnetic. We're not into crazy trumpet solos here, so don't worry. We're more into fretless leaning bass that feels like a soft current under everything. The guitars are all color and shadow at the same time. sometimes more present, other times more delicate, and the drum programming and hand percussion move the air without shouting. Play taka for how the groove is built, then contour for the way the melody curls around the rhythm in such a smooth way. Why it's a gateway? Well, it dissolves any fear of jazzy chaos and replaces it with texture, restraint, and groove you can feel even at low volume. Okay, this one is very special to me because Misc are from Montreal, my city, so yeah. Shoot out to the hometown heroes. Misc is a trio that's secretly a film composer, a rock band, and a jazz group all at once. Partager l'ambulance is lyrical, moody, and never boring. Misc plays jazz without the museum vibe. Yes, the language is jazz, improv, interplay, that live in the moment feel, but the band raids the rest of the record store too. Electro, rock, pop. The result? Hooks you can hum, grooves that actually move, a percussion playground, and smart use of samples and effects that keep everything modern. The piano takes the storytelling lead. Clear motifs, big crescendos, and harmonies that feel more like pop writing than academic exercises. The bass is melodic, the drums shape the scenes, and subtle electronics glow at the edges. What really sells it is the narrative feel. Misc writes pieces like little journeys. You don't just hear them, you go somewhere. Le Preacher is the perfect example. A calm, confident walk toward the finish, led by a piano line that's smooth, memorable, and quietly devastating. Jazz brains will smile, everyone else will hit repeat. And then hit Mad for the clever arrangement of samples, groovy bass line, and a lyrical jazz piano section. Why it's a gateway? Simply because Partager l'ambulance doesn't fall into jazz cliché and brings something fresh to the table. Ezra Collective is what happens when a jazz band decides to throw a block party. Afrobeat, reggae, salsa, grime, it's all on the table and it's all joyful. Where I'm meant to be isn't politely clever, it's contagious. Horns, right hooks, you can sing back, drums and percussion keep you on your feet, and the arrangements shift like a DJ reading a room. It's tight without being stiff, and there's a real sense of community baked into the sound. This is the My Friend Who Hates Jazz Suddenly Asked for the Playlist record. My suggestion here, hit Welcome to My World first. It's pure sunshine. Then hit Victory Dance because, well, the title tells you everything. Why it's a gateway? It's extroverted, melodic, and built for repeat plays. Chicago drummer and producer Makaya McCraven composes like a beatmaker and a band leader at the same time. In this time is lush and orchestrated, strings, horns, and rhythm woven into a single fabric. The trick here is Makaya's process. He captures performances and sculpts them in post, not to sterilize the music, but to highlight its heartbeat. The result is cinematic but pulsing. Themes returns, grooves pivot, and you end up emotionally moved without even feeling lectured. To get the vibe of the album, start with High Fives and Dream Another. Why it's a gateway? Well, it's modern in construction, classic in soul, and jazz-friendly enough for your delicate newbie ears. If you haven't heard of them, GoGo Penguin is one of the most popular jazz fusion bands in England right now. From the North is a live album, and that live energy is the whole point here. I really want to put the live album in this video because I think you need to feel a live version to better connect with the essence of jazz, and this album is perfect for that. You'll hear repeating piano patterns, ostinatos, that lock with tight driving drums. The bass anchors like a kick in a club track. It's propulsive without feeling mechanical, and because it's live, the crescendos breathe and the audience energy bleeds in. If you love Bonobo, Nils Fromm, or even the calmer corners of IDM, this is home territory for you. My suggestion, spin Everything Is Going to Be Okay and Ascent, which are two amazing tracks on this live set. Why it's a gateway album? It delivers the build and release you expect from electronic music, but it's made with human hands and wood and strings. Before Yussef days went full solo, he played with Yussef Kamaal, a short-lived duo that set the tone for the London new jazz wave. Black Focus is Fender Rhodes heaven and drum kit agility with zero compromise. The keys are earthy, the bass lines rubber band around the pocket, and the drums carve syncopations that feel like conversation. The magic is in restraint, tight forms, deep feel, and just enough improv to keep the air moving. Cue Lowrider and Joint 17, that's my two favorite on this album. Why it's a gateway? If the word fusion scares you, this is the antidote. KOKOROKO makes jazz that smiles at you first. The London collective grew out of the city's Afro-diasporic scene, folding high-life guitars, Afrobeat pulse, and soul horns into something that feels like a golden hour on repeat. This isn't the look how fast we can play kind of record. It's community music, patient, melodic, and warm, led with taste, not ego. You can hear the band's roots immediately. West African lineage in the guitar patterns and that London ease where jazz happily shares a table with soul, alt R&B, and broken beat. Sonically, the album is all about space and feel. The horns don't shout. They glide in long, singable lines. The rhythm sections keeps a relaxed pocket, congas and kit moving like one instrument. Bass hugging the kick just tight enough to sway your shoulders at low volume. Keys float around the edges, adding a soft bloom without clutter. Even when the band stretches, the melodies stay front and center, which is why non-jazz listeners locked in so fast. Start with We Give Thanks. It's the mission statement. An honorary build, hand percussion breathing under a bright horn figure that opens like sunlight. Then cue those good times for a mid-tempo cruise where the guitar's high life chime and the horn harmony make one more spin feel mandatory. Why this album matters? It proves modern jazz can be deeply rooted and completely accessible. The band honors tradition without sounding like a retro act, and they prioritize melody and pocket over fireworks. That's the gateway. If jazz has ever felt like homework, Could We Be More hands you the answer key in the form of a groove you can actually feel. On vinyl, it's a vibe machine, whites on stage, pillowy low end, and brass that never turns harsh. Perfect for apartment-friendly listening where you want the room to glow, not rattle. Finally, Toronto's Bad Bad Not Good, who started out flipping hip-hop tunes live and grew into a cinematic, collaborative unit. 4 sits right where jazz, downtempo, and indie R&B overlap. The drums are all pocket, the keys are moody and slightly smoky, and the features feel organic. Voices and instrumentalists dropping in like characters in a film. It's cohesive, modern, and heavy on vibe. Start with In Your Eyes for the vocal magnetism and Speaking Gently for the instrumental mood. Why it's a gateway? It speaks fluent hip-hop and indie while keeping the improvisational spark alive. If you're spinning vinyl in an apartment like me, these records are friendly at stabilized volumes. Keep your subs crossover touch lower than usual so the bass stays tight and neighbor-proof. For streaming, turn loudness normalization off for a bit and try a flat EQ. Let the mixes breathe. These records were built for dynamics. Wow, you made it through here. You deserve a clap. Bravo. So, if you like Yussef Days and Nubya Garcia, take a look at Alpha Mist and his album Antiphon, and if GoGo Penguin and Bad Bad Not Good clicked, you should absolutely check Particle Quartet and the album Monument. Jazz is just conversation set to rhythm. Start with the albums that speak your language and the rest will open up. Drop your conversion track in the comments, and if you want a part 2, female band leaders, heavy metal albums gateways, or how to not fall asleep during a 12-minute prog rock song, I'll make it happen. Like, subscribe, and go play with those tracks. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope I open up a door for you to appreciate jazz. Catch you next time on the Apartment Audiophile.